Welcome to today's Brand Origin Deep Dive, where we peel back the layers of well-known companies to reveal the hidden stories and pivotal moments that truly define them. You've heard of Google, the tech giant that organizes the world's information. But do you know the complex, often challenging journey it undertook when it sought to bring its search engine behind a very different digital border? This isn't just about a product launch, it's about a clash of cultures, ideals, and the difficult choices that ripple through a brand's soul for years. If you find value in this kind of storytelling and behind-the-scenes look, consider liking the video and subscribing. It helps more than you know in bringing these histories to light. Let us know in the comments below where you're tuning in from, or what brand story you'd like us to explore next. Let's dive in and discover how it all began. You walk into a locked archive room, the air thick with the scent of aging paper and ozone. Dust motes dance in the single shaft of light cutting through a high window. This isn't just any corporate storage. It feels like a tomb for discarded futures. Row after row of gray filing cabinets hum with a faint, almost imperceptible energy. On a worn oak table sits a single, unmarked box. You reach out, your fingers tracing the faded label. Dragonfly, internal use only. This box holds not products, but secrets. Decisions made in sterile boardrooms, whispered fears in hushed hallways, the echoes of a clash between utopian ideals and an unforgiving reality. This is where the public narrative ends and the true story begins. The hidden chapters of a brand's soul, fractured by a battle fought not just for market share, but for the very definition of information itself. You open the box. Inside, amidst brittle documents and strange diagrams, you find the first piece, a memo detailing the initial, optimistic plan to enter the Chinese market, filled with early hopes and strategic blind spots. The scene shifts from the dusty stillness of the archive to the buzzing, sunlit campuses of early 2000s Google. This was a place where "Don't be evil" wasn't just a slogan, but the perceived guiding principle, a kind of corporate dharma. You see engineers fueled by free snacks and big ideas, sketching utopian digital futures on whiteboards, futures where information flowed freely and universally. The major historical milestone here is the official decision to pursue a localized Chinese search engine, a venture internally codenamed Dragonfly. Brand historians still debate whether this move was driven primarily by genuine belief in universal access or by the irresistible lure of 1 billion potential users. A quirky, lesser-known detail from this time involves early brainstorming sessions where engineers debated filtering algorithms not just for relevance, but for political sensitivity, a concept utterly alien to the company's origins. The air in these bright rooms, thick with the smell of markers and possibility, slowly begins to carry the faint, metallic tang of compromise. As initial requirements from potential partners become clear, the first stirrings of ethical unease appear. A symbolic red line begins to manifest, not on a map, but in internal policy documents and hushed conversations, foreshadowing the fundamental conflict to come. This hopeful energy is subtly undercut by brushed-aside warnings, early indicators that building a bridge might require building walls. Building on what came before, the journey took an abrupt turn. You witness the brand confronting a formidable wall, the reality of operating under state control. The initial optimism, perhaps a belief that technology transcends politics, begins to crack under pressure. The focus narrows onto the engineers, huddled in labs where the air feels heavy with unspoken conflict. You see the cold glow of monitors reflecting strained faces as they build the censored product. Google, CN. This became a major historical turning point, a real-world test of the brand's "do no evil" mantra against the demands of state-mandated filtering. The technical challenge is immense, but the ethical one is crushing. You feel the textured keys under stressed fingers, typing code that filters information, building the red line directly into the search results. Internal review meetings become tense, the silence after a difficult decision louder than any argument. One quirky, perhaps telling detail involved the internal codename for the censorship compliance module, rumored to be something mundane like Project Filtered Results, stripping it of its political weight, yet highlighting the stark reality of the task. Analysts continue to question the reasoning behind prioritizing market access over unfettered information access in this specific instance. The emotional shift within the company is palpable. A growing sense of disillusionment settles in. This filtering wall you sense is just the beginning. Whispers in the hallways hint that the pressure might escalate beyond just censorship, venturing into realms of surveillance and security concerns. Building on what came before, you witness the narrative shift dramatically. The internal balancing act gives way to external conflict, and the stakes begin to climb higher than anyone initially imagined. This is the era where operating freely feels less like a right and more like a distant dream. The brand isn't just navigating a different market, it's encountering outright blocks, slowdowns, and what feels like deliberately unfair competitive practices from local players, some with ties that extend deeper than corporate structures. It's like trying to run a race where the track keeps changing shape, and sometimes your competitors are allowed to just trip you. The character focus broadens to include the business leaders and legal teams on the ground. You see them wrestling with the impossible, trying to meet corporate goals while ethical and practical standards seem to be constantly eroded. They feel increasingly trapped, caught between the brand's global ambitions and the reality of a hostile operating environment. This period marks a major historical turning point as the brand faces significant government scrutiny and the real threat of services being restricted or shut down, not just modified. The setting becomes a stark contrast. Glimpses of the vast, interconnected Chinese internet landscape are juxtaposed with the confined, monitored feeling of every digital interaction. Sensory details emerge, the frustrating lag time on connections that feel intentionally throttled. The unsettling sense of being watched, the sterile, impersonal environment of government offices, compared to the open, collaborative Google Workspace back home. The emotional shift is palpable, moving from frustration and internal debate to a pervasive sense of siege and creeping paranoia. The red line motif you discussed earlier doesn't feel like a boundary anymore. It feels like a cage slowly closing in. One quirky detail from this time: amidst the high-stakes legal and political maneuvering, a team briefly considered launching a service using carrier pigeons as a joke internal protest against internet speed issues, showing just how absurd the situation felt. Analysts continue to question the reasoning behind some of the brand's strategic decisions during this period, wondering if market share was worth the increasing ethical compromises and operational headaches. All this foreshadows the security breaches and attacks that would soon make the conflict personal and dangerous. Building on the simmering tensions from the previous phase, the conflict escalates violently. The red line you sensed drawing closer is now viciously crossed. You're plunged headfirst into the crisis point, the cyberattacks. This isn't just a minor annoyance, it's a direct assault, centered around a key historical event for the brand. What became infamously known internally as Operation Aurora's glare. It wasn't the original Operation Aurora, of course, but the scale felt just as significant for this company, striking fear into the heart of the operation. The brand's vulnerability is brutally exposed, sensitive customer data compromised, internal systems breached. The digital walls you thought were impenetrable are crumbling. The focus narrows to the security teams, living in a frantic, high-caffeine state, and the executive leadership scrambling in emergency meetings. The setting becomes urgent, tense. The hum of stressed servers echoes in darkened rooms. Security alerts flash like a malevolent disco, and the cold feel of adrenaline is a constant companion. There's the shock, then the anger, quickly followed by a dawning, chilling realization of the severity of the situation. One quirky, lesser-known detail from this time. The lead security architect, known for his calm demeanor, started compulsing empty energy drink cans into bizarre, towering sculptures during late-night shifts. A strange monument to the unfolding chaos. Analysts continue to question the reasoning behind some of the initial response delays. Was it underestimation, denial, or simply being caught flat-footed? This critical turning point leaves a profound sense of violation. The attack forces an immediate reckoning and foreshadows the incredibly difficult choices that must be made in response. Decisions that will define the brand's resilience and its future. Building on the tension explored previously, the moment of truth arrives. You witness the difficult decision being made, the retreat from the Chinese search market. This isn't just a business decision, it's a pivotal brand identity crisis unfolding in real time. The major historical milestone is the public announcement of the withdrawal, a carefully crafted statement presented less as a failure and more as a return to fundamental principles. Even if the circumstances felt forced. The character focus shifts back to the founders and top executives, their faces etched with the weight of this moment, grappling with the undeniable failure of their initial strategy and the immense cost of the withdrawal. Not just the financial hit, which was significant, but the ideological toll. The setting is somber. You feel the silence hanging heavy in the empty offices slated for closure in Beijing. Hear the metaphorical and literal click of servers being shut down. There's a lesser-known detail. One team reportedly left a small potted bamboo plant in their final office cleanup, a quiet symbol of growth stunted. Internally, discussions reflect resignation and a painful reflection on compromised ideals. Analysts continue to question the reasoning behind the initial depth of commitment, debating if the outcome was inevitable. The red line motif you saw them confront is now left behind, but its shadow remains, a lasting scar on the brand's history. This withdrawal isn't just an end. It foreshadows the long-term consequences for the brand's global identity and the shape of the digital landscape to come. You step back from the box. The light has shifted, casting longer shadows. The story of Google's battle with China isn't just a chapter in a corporate history book, it's a parable for the digital age. It's about the promises we make, the compromises we're forced to consider, and the unseen lines drawn in the code that define our access to information. The red line they encountered wasn't unique to one country. It was a stark manifestation of a fundamental tension that exists globally, wherever technology meets power. The echoes of that withdrawal still shape the sleek interfaces you use today and the subtle shifts in global advertising strategies you might not even notice. You think of the engineers who wrestled with their consciences, the executives who weighed profit against principle, the sheer, complex mess of trying to build a global bridge that was destined to meet an unmovable wall. What did it truly cost? Not just in lost market share or security fixes, but in the erosion of an ideal? Some of those foot soldiers carried the scars, potentially influencing later projects with a new caution, or even leaving the company entirely, disheartened by the compromises. A lesser-known detail: internal surveys after the exit reportedly showed a significant dip in employee morale and trust in leadership regarding ethical decisions. Analysts continue to question the reasoning behind pursuing Project Dragonfly years later, viewing it as evidence that the lessons weren't fully absorbed immediately. The setting expands globally now. The space Google left wasn't empty for long. It fueled the rise of other tech giants, operating under different rules, shifting the global digital balance. The red line motif is no longer just about China. You see its shadow in debates over data privacy in Europe, content moderation laws in India, and digital sovereignty pushes everywhere. It's a universal symbol of the ongoing tension between information access, corporate power, and state control. You touch the faded label on the box again. Dragonfly. A project name that evokes something ephemeral, beautiful, easily crushed. Is Google forever marked by this encounter? Has it permanently changed its approach to global engagement, or simply become more adept at navigating the shadows? You look around the silent archive. There are countless other boxes here, holding stories not yet told, battles not yet understood. The hum of the cabinets feels louder now, a low thrumming reminder that behind every polished logo, every seamless digital interaction, there are hidden histories, ethical ghosts, and lingering questions that continue to shape the world you navigate every single day. The story might end here, in this dusty room, but the echoes, they resonate far beyond these walls. And maybe, just maybe, the soul of a brand is never in its product, but in the people, stories, and stumbles that shape it.